Well, there you go, eh? I spent all morning and most of the afternoon fucking with that thing. Uploading, uploading, and uploading firmware and bootloader and firmware and bootloader and firmware. And if you think you could just go to the website, okay, if you think you could just go there and just fucking download the latest firmware, okay, that fucking shit there. If you think you can go there and download the latest firmware and the latest fucking bootloader and download it onto that fucking machine, you got another thing coming. Because it just don't work like that. Because I tried that and it don't work. So if I go directly to the bootloader, 504.212.2, my little fucking, you can't see it. Yeah, right there. See 5 watts? That little fucking thing goes into milliamps. So I spent the whole fucking day. Well, at the end I got wise. Okay, so what I did at the end, I was like, okay, let's look and see the dates of their bootloader has to fucking coincide with their fucking firmware because it works together. So what I'd figured out is my original bootloader was like 2017. 2017, my original bootloader, 432, okay? With the firmware from 2007 from 1023, which is 2.5.128. So those two is what the radio came with, right? So what I did was, okay, since those two coincide together and work, and I get all the wattage doesn't go to milliwatts, milliamps or whatever. So what I did is I downloaded, okay, let's try the bootloader. We'll update the bootloader from this one, but we'll only update it to a certain point. So it was 342. We're going to update it to 346. Not a big jump. You can go to 504 if you want, but that shit ain't going to work. So I go with the bootloader and the firmware. Those two work. So okay, let's upload this bootloader. So you can see the check marks as I went down the line here with the firmware and the bootloaders. So I went down and I said, okay, look at the next step from 2017 to 2018. Let's grab that one and let's grab the firmware. So it looks like they updated the bootloader before the firmware or after the firmware. So what I did was I'll load the firmware first, then I'll load the boot after, and that worked out okay. So all these can coincide together right up until I got right up. Look at that, the latest bootloader. Boom, not a problem. The latest, it's working, coexisting with all these other firmware upgrades, right? So then I said, okay, we can't go anymore with the bootloader. It's done. So let's go to 211. That would be the next one. See here, 211.79. And then the bootloader, these two work together. So then I said, okay, 211.79. Let's go up to whatever, next one up. So we went up to 211.1, and I got my milliamp failure. Went to 211.2, the milliamp failure went away. I got it's functioning, fully functioning. So then I said, okay, we'll go to 211.9. Boom, lost the fucking, back to milliamps. Okay, we'll go back to 211.8. Boom. So now we're running. Now we are running, and this is the best I can do out of all that fucking manipulation and bullshit. Like, you get the big bucks to do this shit. There you go. Look at that. Bootloader 504. Oh yeah. Bootloader 504. Okay, there you go. So that's working, functioning. Got my 5 watts. right? And bootloader and firmware 211.8. Now I could go up to 212.2, but then I get this problem here. So the best I can do is go to a forum somewhere and state that I get a power milliamp error when I put the next version of firmware up. Right now, I don't give a fuck because I got everything working. You know what I mean? I got my dual screens working. So hey, you know what I mean? I got my 5 watt, see, 2 watts, 1 watt, 0.5 watts, full 10 watts, 5 watts. So you know what I mean? We're laughing. We're back in the game. We're back in the game.